Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Let's start with a story that's out of this world, literally. Imagine working retail and attracting the most colorful customers, from soap opera extras to self-proclaimed extraterrestrials. This week's star, a woman claiming she's an alien. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. How I sold shoes to an alien. I always get weird customers, and I always get their life stories. I think I give off some pheromone that attracts the crazies because no one else at my work has to deal with this crap. My boss says I'm too patient with customers and too willing to listen to them. She's probably right. This week alone, I've received 2 business cards from Jehovah's Witnesses. Additionally, I had a rather friendly man who told me he was an actor and asked if I recognized him. I said no, and he gave me his business card. Later, research on my part showed he was a pedestrian in an obscure regional soap opera. Big-time actor, clearly. I've decided I'm going to collect a little Rolodex of all the business cards I accumulate. Anyway, off topic. This latest lady really tickled my biscuit. She was about 50 and was looking for a pair of sandals. It's winter in Scotland, so that's my first clue that this woman has some squeaky hinges. She's friendly. She accumulates a little pile of gaudy toe posts that I just know she's not going to put back. We get talking. You know, the usual. How is the weather outside? And did you know the government puts wire meshes into people, and I've already lost 2 friends this year to this remarkably wicked injustice? I keep a straight face. Somehow. I'm ringing her up, and she asked me if I believe in aliens. I watched the Bob Lazar documentary, so I muse that it's possible. She sees an opportunity, and I see the next 20 minutes of my life being sucked away. She tells me she's an alien from a planet behind the sun, and she was taught to fly spaceships at 3 years old. She also runs an animal sanctuary in her house and has 50 bats. She brings out her phone, and my boss and colleagues watch me try to keep a straight face, but they can't quite hear what nonsense she's spouting. She shows me a photo. At first, I think it's one of her fabled bats. It's a dark, shadowy blob. I comment that it's a big-looking bat, and she tells me no, that's my true form. Then she shows me a picture of the badger she feeds in her garden. Her granddaughter's an alien too, she says, and regularly tells her completely sane granny that they don't belong on this planet. I'm inclined to agree. She gives me her business card and tells me the truth's all going to come out soon, so I guess this is a heads up. Aliens are here, and unfortunately we're going to have to serve them. I'd prefer to be zapped into another dimension or turned into meat slurry personally, but at least I'll be getting minimum wage when the toddlers start landing in saucers. You've clearly been marked as the go-to person for the most out-there conversations. Kudos to you for keeping a straight face while a self-proclaimed alien showed you her true form in a blurry photo. It takes real patience and skill to entertain that without breaking character. The mental image of a customer casually chatting about government conspiracies, flying spaceships at age 3, and feeding badgers alongside running an animal sanctuary is a wild ride. Collecting business cards from people like this is genius, though. Your collection might become legendary someday. Here's hoping those aliens are good tippers when they finally make their presence known. And our second story. Don't want to leave when the restaurant closes? Okay. Some background information. I work at a fast-paced Asian restaurant that doubles as a sushi bar. So how this works is we have colored plates that we tally up at the end of the meal and hand to the cashier with the patron's table number on it when they're ready to leave. Now, because in the past, groups of people who wish to split bill refuse to claim sushi plates as theirs or bicker about who shared what main course, management made it a rule to forbid split billing, as it just takes too long for people to figure out who had what sushi and what main dish. This typically holds up fine. However, we occasionally get a group of people who order one dish and one drink each, so it's easy to keep track of and are also pleasant to deal with. For these people, I'll sneakily do a split bill if they ask. On a day that we closed shop at 9 p.m., we had 2 girls come in at 8:30 p.m. wanting to dine in. not a problem. We typically have people stay maybe 10 to 15 minutes after closing to finish off their meal. We just clean the kitchen and sushi bar while they're finishing and stack the chairs when they leave. At 9:30 p.m., all other customers had paid and left except for these two girls. Plate of food barely touched, still chatting away. As the only fluent English speaker working that closing shift, I approached them to politely inform them that we had closed and asked if they'd like their food packed for takeaway as a hint to leave. They agreed. I packed their food and brought their dishes into the kitchen so the kitchen hand could go home. When I returned, they still hadn't made a move, so I thought I'd give them a little more time and went to drying some glasses and helping the other two waitresses tidy up the waitstaff station, as I didn't want to harass the two customers into leaving. By the time I'd finished, it was nearing 10 p.m. After some persuasion from my coworkers, I went to go try and deal with them again, this time asking them if they could please pay the bill as we needed to close shop. Both girls ignored me and continued gossiping and showing each other pictures of guys on Instagram. So I went to the computer, charged them for literally everything I could, 50 cents for the takeaway container, $1 for each tub of extra sauce they ordered, and 50 cents for their meal being extra spicy. Usually, if we forget to charge customers for these things, it's no big deal. I printed the bill and handed it to them, asking more firmly for them to pay the bill. The only response I got was, "Yeah, okay, would you just give us a sec, honey?" So I went back to the register a few feet away from them. They decided that this was a great time to take some selfies before attempting to begin another gossiping session. When I cleared my throat, there was no more music playing, no one else was in the store. They definitely heard me. Soon came an ugh, and one got up, prompting the other to follow. Once they got to the counter, they noticed the sign that said, "No split billing." They were outraged and demanded why I couldn't let them pay half on EFT POS, half in cash, and that it was stupid that I wouldn't, despite there being a massive no split bill sign when you walk through the door, as well as one on each register. I simply told them it was house rules. In the end, one girl paid for them both and asked me where the closest ATM was. I told them there was one across the road at the shopping center on the right. They thanked me, and through the glass door, I saw them making their way towards the shopping center in the distance. There was an ATM 2 stores down if they walked left. Your patience with those two was commendable, but your clever, quiet revenge was a masterclass in maintaining professionalism while making a point. They ignored polite hints, stretched your night far past closing, and still had the audacity to argue about the bill despite the multiple signs. So charging for every little extra, which was completely fair, was the perfect way to gently remind them that their behavior wasn't appreciated. You handled it perfectly while staying well within the rules. And honestly, I'm rooting for your next level of pettiness next time someone tests your limits. And our last story. Karen's free ride ends with a frozen Tesla and sweet justice. This story isn't mine, but it's about the satisfying revenge served cold, and I mean cold, by our strip mall's landlord. Let me set the stage first. I work in a small strip mall with a few other businesses. To the left of us is a restaurant run by Karen, the manager who clearly believes the world revolves around her. To the right is a quiet dental office. At the back of the building, between us and the dental office, there's a maintenance room used for shared building utilities. Each store manager has a key to this room. Now here's where the fun begins. Karen moved her restaurant into the strip mall around May. From day one, she started plugging her Tesla into an outlet inside the maintenance room to charge her car. This wouldn't have been an issue if she were using her own electricity, but no. Karen decided the strip mall's communal power was hers for the taking. Our landlord wasn't immediately aware of the freeloading because she doesn't come by often. Karen's charging habit flew under the radar for months, unnoticed, until last night. Here in Iowa, weather can be brutal. Last night's wind chill dipped to a frigid minus 20 degrees, and some of the equipment in the maintenance room is temperature controlled. To plug in her car, Karen had propped open the maintenance room door, letting all the cold air rush in. The temperature dropped so low it triggered a warning on the landlord's system. When the landlord arrived to investigate, the car and charger were gone and the door was closed. She thought it might have been a one-off mistake, but when the temperature warning went off again this morning, she came back determined to find out what was going on. Karen always parks her Tesla right outside our back door so the cord can stretch to the maintenance room. Naturally, when the landlord showed up this morning, her first stop was my door. "Who owns the car?" she asked, irritation practically steaming off her in the cold air. "It belongs to Karen from the pho restaurant," I said, trying to stay neutral. She narrowed her eyes. "Why didn't anyone mention this before?" I shrugged. "I figured you'd approved it." "Oh, I did not." She then asked one of my coworkers how long this had been going on. When he told her it had been happening since May, her expression went from annoyed to furious. Without another word, she marched off toward the pho restaurant. About 20 minutes later, the landlord called me. "Can you believe this?" she said, her voice dripping with disbelief. "I asked Karen and her employees about the car, and suddenly no one remembers who owns it." I couldn't help but chuckle. That was so Karen. "Well, don't worry," the landlord continued. "I have a solution. First, the landlord reclaimed all the maintenance room keys from Karen's restaurant staff. Then she unplugged the charger from Karen's Tesla, took the charger itself, and locked it inside the maintenance room. To top it off, she left a blunt note taped to the maintenance room door. 'If you'd like your charger back, please call me.' Now, here's where things get really good. Karen's Tesla takes about 8 hours to fully charge. She plugs it in every morning and lets it charge all day while she's at work. But since the landlord unplugged it less than an hour after Karen started charging, the car barely had enough juice for even a short trip. Later that evening, Karen knocked on our back door, looking frazzled. "Do you have a key to the maintenance room?" she asked, feigning innocence. "Oh," I replied, keeping my tone casual. "The landlord came by and said she was taking everyone's keys. No idea what's going on, but I don't think anyone has one anymore." "Do you want her number?" Karen's face fell. "No, I'll figure it out." Spoiler alert, she didn't want to call the landlord because she knew exactly why this was happening. By the time she left work that night, Karen had no choice but to call the landlord to retrieve her charger. And since her car had barely charged, she likely spent the rest of the night figuring out how to get home or waiting for the car to charge. From what I've heard, Karen hasn't dared to plug her car in since. The landlord made it clear that if she tries again, there will be serious consequences. Karen thought she could dodge accountability with her classic "it's not mine" routine, but the landlord's calm yet decisive response made it all crumble. Taking back the keys, locking up the charger, and leaving that mic drop note? An expertly handled move. I can only imagine Karen's panic when her Tesla couldn't make it home. Sometimes karma needs a little help, and this landlord delivered it perfectly. Hopefully, Karen learns the cost of cutting corners, literally. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.